What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Dream Home Build series, where I'm attempting to build just my third home build ever, which is almost a 4,000 square foot custom home that I'm gonna move into when it's finished. And I'm also attempting to build my very first pool in the backyard on this project. So in today's video, I'm gonna be doing this massive driveway and also some concrete pavers leading into my front door. And I'm also gonna be doing all the landscape here on my 1 acre lot. And I have some pretty big design plans in store for the landscape. The only problem is I'm kind of running over budget and running out of money, but I do intend on doing big things with the landscape and finishing this project strong. Anyways, I'm on the road to 100,000 subscribers. I think right now I'm at like 88K. So if you're new here, go hit the subscribe button so we can get to 100K by the end of this project so I can keep doing bigger and better things here on my YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's get in the video. So one guy showed up from my concrete crew and he's just gotten started doing the prep work for the right side of the driveway. We're also going to be doing the prep work for the other flat work here on this project. And just a year ago, I didn't know what the term flat work meant. So if you've never built a house, or if you're not in construction, I'm sure you're wondering what it means too. So let me explain. So flat work is a term that describes concrete work that is not structural. So if you can think back 3 months ago, whenever I was starting building this house, we did structural concrete work, which was the foundation for this home build. So we poured a 5,000 square foot concrete slab for the house, which was structural, essentially meaning it just has a structure on top of it. And it has to be structural because it has to be able to support whatever is on top of it. Well, the term that describes non-structural concrete work is flat work. So now we're at the stage of the build where we're doing the driveway, which is non-structural, and then a walkway over there, which is non-structural. And if I wanted to pour any other kind of sidewalk or anything like that, that would be considered flat work. So we're at the point in the build where we're doing the driveway and the flat work. We're about to start doing all the prep work, putting up all the forms, putting up and tying all the rebar. So let me show you what we are doing, what the scope of work is on this project for flat work. So we got a big, huge driveway leading into my 2-car garage on that side. And it's also gonna split off and go into my covered parking area over here called the portiche. So it's a massive 2-car driveway. At some point, it's probably gonna be like a 4-car driveway. And it's gonna bend around this really big oak tree that I'm trying to keep here on the build. I've trimmed it off of the house. You can see it's hanging over the house. So really cool tree where we're gonna bend the concrete around to right, like here. And then it's gonna go up in the covered portiche. And then right here, we're gonna do a big concrete paver thing that's gonna go into the front door, probably like 6 foot wide, 5 foot long pavers with like 6 inches in between them with rock in between them. And pretty much that makes up the full scope of work for the flat work on this home build. I was considering putting some more concrete here in my backyard. I'll show you where, but I elected not to for one main reason. So let me go show you where I'm talking about. So walking out this back door of my garage, it steps down, there's the pool area right there, and over here to the left is the pool equipment. And I thought about putting concrete in this area, but I decided to not do a concrete pool deck. Instead, I'm doing a paver deck that is going to wrap around the pool. It's also going to come right here in front of my master bedroom door. And then the pavers, I think I'm just, instead of pouring a little bit of concrete right here, I'm just going to wrap the pavers all inside of here so I can walk right up to my pool equipment. So that wraps up the scope of work for the flat work that I'm going to be doing on this project. So let's get the driveway prepped. Let's get the other paver walkway area prepped up. And then tomorrow at 11 a.m., I got the concrete scheduled, 30 yards. I also got a trailer pump scheduled for 11 a.m. Hopefully it doesn't rain. It does show a little bit of rain in the forecast. We got a lot to do because it's like 3 p.m. and we got one guy here. He said the rest of his crew is held up at another job. They're waiting on like 6 yards of concrete to finish out a full slab, and then they're gonna come here and assist with all the prep work. So yeah, domino effect in construction. It's always problems. Hopefully they show up, otherwise I'll have to push my concrete back, or who knows, probably delay it several more days because there is rain in the future. Yay for me. Let's get it prepped. Oh, all right, you guys, it is the next morning. The crew stayed here working until about 7 p.m. when the sun went down, and I think they showed up at like 6 o'clock this morning. So let's check out the progress. Looks like they're almost ready for concrete, which is coming in just a couple hours. Still got to get this area ready here for sure, but you can definitely see. What's this? You can definitely see the driveway is taking shape. Here's the main driveway. It's going to split off and go into the covered portage there. See here on this side, we got the head walls. These are going to be actual walls of concrete that are put right around the culvert, 3 feet on either side, I think, to protect any washouts on the culvert. Just protect the culvert, because over time all the water that runs through here, it'll wash out all the dirt, and then it'll cause problems for the driveway. So this is really going to help protect the integrity of the culvert. Got to get this area formed up. Still got to get rebar installed in a couple areas, but major progress. Let's go take a look at the walkway area leading into the front door, the big paver step idea that we had. You can see it right there. I'm gonna go around this tree and we'll talk about it. So originally I wanted to do massive concrete pavers, but I ended up not, wow, my hat is janky this morning. It's gonna have to work though. I wanted to do really wide pavers right here, but unable to do so because this is a tree that I don't want to encroach too much on, because I want to keep it and I want it to live forever. And I wanted to do, these pavers are currently 4 foot wide by 6 foot long. I wanted to do like 6 or 7 foot wide, but at that point it wouldn't be in line with the driveway, and the driveway would get too close to the tree. So this is going to have to work. So essentially, these pavers are going to be like long ways leading you to walk this way. So you're going to walk this way here. We'll have landscape on the left going up that way. And then right here, they're going to turn wide, leading into the wide front door. So that was by design. I got to look at myself. Holy moly. This hat needs to go in the sun. Okay. Anyways, the prep work's getting done. Unfortunately, I have a meeting that I have to get out of here for, because I'm meeting with Allstate Insurance Company. I own a roof company, so I'm going to meet with them at a client's house to see if I can get their roof approved by insurance. That's at 10:30, and that is like 45 minutes away. It's typically gonna last like an hour at least, but the concrete is showing up here for my driveway at 11 o'clock. So I'm likely going to miss the entire pour unless a miracle happens and either the concrete is late, which I'm not hoping for, or the adjuster appointment goes really fast, which would be nice, and they approve the roof. So maybe I'll pick it up the adjuster appointment and see, let you know if I get the roof approved, because that'll be a pretty good paycheck. That'll help me, because I'm way over budget on this freaking home build. So the guys are gonna finish up the prep work. Concrete will be here in like 2.5 hours. And then today, by the end of the day, the concrete flat work will be all finished. Perfect timing. Just started coming out of the pump. Right now we're getting the driveway and the walkway poured. I'll say we're roughly 40% finished. We've got this front part of the driveway poured. Now we're working on the walkway. You can see concrete goes inside the paver area, but nothing in here. Inside the paver area, but nothing in those little slots. We're gonna put rocks in between the concrete pavers. And one thing I did on the design was I just made this a short paver because of the layout. The math didn't really work for this one to be full 6 foot long. So instead it's like pretty much just 4 foot by 4 foot. And then the 6 foot long ones all start there. So I don't know, I kind of feel like it's like, okay, you're entering on the walkway. So I thought it was fine. I know that really don't make sense to y'all. But the concrete supplier's doing a good job. The concrete looks great today. Concrete finishers are all working hard, doing a good job. And then also I had to order what's called a trailer pump on this job with a long hose to pump all the concrete in to the job site. The other option would be backing that big 20,000 pound concrete truck all the way back down the driveway and just pumping it right in off of his, out of the drum. But that causes damage to the rebar. It like bends the rebar and keeps it from being, you know, just a couple inches off the ground like you want it. So in order to prevent that from happening, I paid roughly $850 for the trailer pump and this long hose that's running on the ground, 100 feet of hose, for them to pump it in perfectly. Less work on the crew, keeps the crew happy, and also doesn't damage the rebar. This is my first time doing a concrete driveway in the flat work as a labor-only piecemeal kind of ordeal. Previously, I've always done it turnkey. I've always just hired a turnkey contractor to provide all the material and labor, and then I just showed up and watched it happen. But I increased my responsibilities like I did on the concrete foundation of this home build, where I saved like $20,000 by doing everything labor only and then me buying all the material. There's benefits to that. You save money. This is my first time doing this concrete flat work labor only, so I was responsible for coordinating with the concrete material supplier in those big trucks, also the concrete pump, and then also the finish crew. The finish crew on this, they provided the form boards and also the rebar. So it wasn't too big of an ordeal. I'm interested to see how much money I can really save by doing the concrete flat work labor only, because I know exactly how much this would have cost me if I hired someone turnkey. So by the end of the video, I'll be able to let you know how much I saved and if it was worth it for me to hire someone turnkey or for me to just hire this crew labor only and then schedule the concrete material and the concrete trailer pump. So far, so good. The only bad thing is I kind of was hoping for like 30 yards of concrete, and turns out I'm going to need at least 40 yards plus. So that's 4 full trucks. Each truck I think is roughly $1,000. So every time I send a new truck, it's $1,000. I was hoping to spend like $3,000 to $3,500 in concrete, and it sounds like and looks like I'm going to end up spending more than $4,000, 4 to 5 trucks, maybe even 5 full trucks, maybe more than that. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, so far so good. Getting it knocked out. Rain's holding off. Let's get it finished up. So it's been a couple days since the driveway was poured, and for the most part it turned out fantastic, but there was one major problem that I'm going to reveal to you guys, and hopefully both myself and you can learn from it, so it doesn't happen to you. So you'll see it is now dried and cured. There's a vehicle parked at the end of my driveway, and it's currently under use, doing what it's supposed to, as well as you'll notice it's a little bit dirty, and that is because I let my subcontractors use the driveway to get from the street to the house. That way they don't have to carry all their tools and material, 60 feet from the street to the house back and forth, making their job more difficult than it has to be. I just let them use the driveway. Therefore, there are going to be some tire marks like this here as a result, as well as they are going to be tracking some dirt using dollies and whatnot if they happen to go off in the dirt on either side of the driveway and then walk back on the concrete. But I like to make my subcontractors' life a little bit easier, so I let them use the driveway if they want to. So before I get into the major problem that happened here on my concrete flat work, let me tell you my favorite part about the driveway, and that is just how massive it is. Obviously, I have a really big garage here that will be very easily to get boats and vehicles in and out of, but my favorite part is that me and my wife are gonna likely both park in that covered porta-shade, and instead of having to back straight out all the way down the driveway and then back onto the street and then pull out going forward, we'll be able to park there and then back out like this, make this little turn, and then pull out going this way going forwards right onto the street. But that's most certainly my favorite part, because instead of having to back out all the way, you'll be able to just turn around and pull out going forward. Here is the concrete pavers. They also turned out great. They may look a little bit bare right now considering landscape and rocks are not in surrounding it, but that is coming soon and they will look great then. Here they are leading into my front door. Now let me reveal the major problem that happened on my concrete flat work. So we finished the pour around maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and the crew left out of here, and so did I. And then we had a little pop-up storm around 4 or 5 o'clock, which the driveway had kind of been curing for 2, 3, 4 hours at this point, considering we started the pour here about 9 o'clock, if I can remember right. And then obviously this concrete up here is going to cure a little bit faster than the concrete that got poured at the very end around, I don't know, 12, 1 or 2, down at the very end of the driveway. Well, like I said, the crew and myself all left around maybe 3 o'clock. Well, we had a pop-up thunderstorm around 5 o'clock where it just kind of downpoured. And me being a new builder, I did not really expect to have any problems with the driveway, but I did not have gutters up on the house yet. So all the water that hit the roof ran off the roof and of course fell right here onto my driveway, where it chipped off the broom finish everywhere the water was splashing down onto the concrete. So now it has this damaged part where the broom finish was just completely knocked off. And also at the very end of my driveway, I had to order a kicker truck of about 6 yards of concrete, and here in this area was the very last part that got poured, maybe around 12 or 1 or 2. And they poured this section here, and then also a little bit of this section here. And since this was the last poured, it was the freshest concrete, whenever it started to rain, the rain also damaged the surface on these last 6 yards of concrete. Now, maybe I'll just consider it a learning experience, because I know structurally the concrete is sound. It's not going to cause any structural problems. It's not going to just start cracking and breaking and I need to replace it by any means, but it is a visual imperfection. Now this was a pop-up thunderstorm that wasn't really in the forecast, so I don't really know that there was a way either myself or the crew could have done anything to prevent this damage, but I know that moving forward, if I know it's going to rain after we pour the concrete, I think what I should have done is either lay down a tarp or lay down some 2x6s right here in this area. That way, everywhere the water was running off the roof and hitting the concrete, it would have just hit the tarp or hit the 2x6s or hit the wood instead of falling directly onto the concrete finish and causing any damage. Same for down here. I probably should have just laid out a tarp, and I think that would have prevented the damage that happened here. So hopefully that's something that both you and I can learn from in the future. But now the concrete driveway is finished. Okay, now for a quick break in the video, and that is to address a comment that I get all the time in my comment section, which is, how do you get the money to do this at such a young age? Where do you make all this money? Which, of course, building houses, getting real estate investments, building our dream house, all this stuff costs money. So I just want to address that comment and give y'all a little bit of insight to the answer to that, which is I own my own roofing company. So right now I'm headed to an appointment where I'm going to install a couple sections of samples for a customer so they can choose what shingle color they want on the roof replacement. So I've just left the build and I got out of my yellow TRX and hopped in my little work van, my little roofing van where I have my equipment, and I'm about to pull up to the homeowner's house now. And first I need to change shirts real quick so I can look a little more presentable like a roofing contractor. So let me do that. Alright, so I'm going to pull up here and get these shingle samples installed. I usually don't do any physical labor whatsoever, and honestly I'm just kind of doing this as a courtesy for the customers because they're having a difficult time choosing their shingle color off of a small sample board. So I'm actually taking the time to come out here myself to install a couple samples on the roof so that they can make their decision. But after I get this done, I'll get back in the vehicle on the way out of here and I'll tell you a little bit more about this job, and I guess maybe how much money I'm probably going to be making off this job. That way you guys can understand where I make the money to invest into real estate and build houses, build our dream house at a young age. How you doing? Doing great. Knock this out. So I think I got 3 colors. I can install them just 3 little sections here on this main area. That way you can get a good sight and make your decision. This is why I hate doing the freaking labor. These shingles are so nasty. They stink, make my hands stink, make my clothes stink, ruin my clothes. My wife gets mad. She can't get it out. The one in the middle kind of like your roof now.
Yeah.
What do y'all think?
Middle.
It's stinking too.
Okay, middle. You want to take a walk around or no?
Yeah.
Let's take a walk. Bye-bye. All right, so that was a success. I got the shingle samples installed on the roof to help the customer make their decision on shingle color. And they were happy I did that because they were having a difficult time selecting their shingle color just based off of a little 2-foot by 2-foot shingle sample board that the manufacturer gives me. So, you know, happy customers equals more customers. So I'm taking care of them. Maybe they'll take care of me and send me a referral. But that job there is a job where we are replacing the shingle roof. So tearing off the old shingle roof and installing a new one. And then we're also detaching and resetting the gutter system so we don't damage it during the roof replacement. And also so we can replace the drip edge flashing on the roof. That job there is a, let me think, give me 1 second. So I'm not sure if you can see the contract there. I pulled it up through my CRM on my phone app. But that job there is a $40,292.05 job. $40,000 job. I'm gonna have about $8,000 in material, maybe $5,000 in labor. So anyways, my total cost on that job is probably $12,000 or $13,000, meaning I'm going to be profiting like $27,000 on that job, which is extremely healthy profit margins, like 68%. And this was a job that I got approved by their insurance company and had some trouble getting it approved at that. So I feel very happy taking that healthy of a profit margin on this job, considering all the work that has went into it on getting it approved with the insurance company on the front end. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight of what goes in behind the scenes on me actually making the money to be able to do what you guys see in my videos, which is build these houses for real estate investments, and now obviously building my dream home. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit more understanding of how I actually make my money and do the things I do and provide for my family and climb towards my very, very high set of goals I have to reach in a very short amount of time. So hope y'all enjoyed that. Back to the build. CenterPoint is finally here to install the natural gas supply line on the home build. It's been probably started this process in January, so February, March, April, May. 4 long months of emails and phone calls requesting for them to come out here. Initially they told me it would be 4 to 6 weeks, and here we are 4 months later, which is 16 weeks. And they're finally out to take care of part 1 of this 2-part process to get a natural gas supply to my house. Part 1 is what they're doing today. They said it takes about an hour or 2, and they're digging this trench all the way to the meter location, the future meter location, and they're installing the natural gas line. At that point, whenever they finish later on today, I have to get back on the phone with CenterPoint. I have to call them and request for them to come install the meter, at which point they'll come out and install the actual meter and the regulators and whatever else that goes in that area. This is my first time doing natural gas because in my current primary residence, I have a propane tank, and then on the 2 other homes I built and I own as rental properties, one has a propane tank, but the other one doesn't even have any gas at all. It's all electric appliances, and I did that strategically so I didn't have to mess with the propane tank. But on this home build, I have pretty much all gas appliances. I have gas furnaces, gas water heaters, and gas pool heater, and some other gas items where I need a natural gas supply. Therefore, I need center point to provide me with natural gas. All I know is one guy's digging the actual trench to location, and then there's 3 other guys here on this crew. One guy, I believe, is using some kind of pump machine to bore all the way under the street. And then there's 2 guys in my neighbor's yard across the street that are digging a massive hole. I would imagine trying to dig down to access the main line over there that we're gonna tap into. So this septic system process actually started several months ago during the actual planning stages of the project. After I got my building plans back on the house that were designed by the architect, I had to consult with someone that is called a sanitary sewer engineer. And this person, I guess, had the qualifications to be able to design me a customized septic system that would be able to handle the exact amount of sewage that this house size should produce. I guess you can't have one too big, or at least that'd be a waste of money. And you definitely can't have one too small, because then it wouldn't be able to process all the sewer that the house would produce. So once he gave me that set of septic plans, I was able to send those to different certified installers, and they gave me all the bids, as well as I took those plans to the county, and that is what I used to obtain the septic system permit. So on this house build, I had to get 2 permits, one on the actual home build permit, and then one for the septic system permit. And believe it or not, I did not have to get a single home building inspection done throughout the project of this build. I was able to bring in all the dirt, do the concrete foundation, do the framing, do the mechanicals, do the roof, and everything else on this project without any inspections whatsoever, which I know is a little crazy to hear, but you know, I don't make the rules. So, but there is one inspection that I have to get done on that project, on this project, and that is on the septic system installation. So once they set the septic system in the ground, we're going to leave it uncovered, call the county, and they should come out here within the next 5 business days to perform an inspection, make sure everything was done exactly the way that the septic plan that I turned into the county says it should be done. Once we pass that, we'll cover everything up and continue on with the build. So I only have about 3 weeks left on this project between all the interior finishes, which we are doing interior paint today, and then I guess call it all the exterior finishes, which only consist of installing this septic system, finishing the backyard pool area, doing the final grade, and then lastly doing all the landscape, which I'm gonna go crazy on the landscape, so stay tuned for that. I'm excited about that. Not excited about the amount of money I have to pay for it, but excited for how it's gonna turn out. And one challenge I've been facing on the exterior of this home build over the past month and a half is I've just been battling rain. There's been like no exterior progress whatsoever on the exterior of this home build over the past 6 weeks, 7 weeks, month and a half. And that's because we have been getting like flood level rains. It's been flooding everyone around here, like flood levels over people's houses. We've been getting crazy windstorms that have been blowing out windows and skyscrapers in downtown Houston. So crazy weather has really halted the progress on the exterior of this home build. Also, another challenge is that I think there could have been some progress, but we've been waiting to get this septic system installed. And originally, I hired another subcontractor to install this septic system, and he just was full of excuses. And there was a couple dry times when we really probably could have got in the septic system, but he just kept giving me excuses on how it was too wet for him to be able to do his job. And since that guy was kind of full of excuses, last week there was a time when the site was finally really dry enough. I thought he was going to get the job done, and he came out and did a site inspection and sent me a message, hey, I think the site's too wet. I'm going to have to do it later. And I finally just told him, you're fired. And I ended up hiring this crew. This guy's name is Roger. He's a good guy, and he was able to take care of the job on like probably a 3 or 4 day notice. The site is dry enough today for them to be digging the hole, set the septic system inside, and then be digging all the trenches to run all the sprinkler lines for the septic system. But that is one main challenge I've really been facing between the rain and also a subcontractor that was full of excuses. As you can see, my septic system is fully installed. Unfortunately, I did not get any footage whatsoever of it getting installed, so I'm a little bummed out. I was excited for that. I had a time-lapse, GoPro time-lapse set up right here to get it all captured on camera while I was out, and I don't know if I didn't press record or if the battery died, but regardless, it didn't do its job. Therefore, I don't have any footage of that getting installed, so we're gonna skip past that. I wasn't able to be here because I'm so far over budget on this project that I have to go out and knock doors to try to sell roofs for my roofing company to make money to be able to pay for this project and provide for my family and all those other things that, while money is important in life. So yeah, I didn't get any footage. Let's move on. So I believe they just backed the crane truck right across the ditch, and they used a crane to set these big, heavy concrete tanks into the ground where they dug the hole. And I believe that's kind of all the installation consists of as far as installing this. Maybe they had to get it level, something like that, and then backfill a little bit. So they got the tanks installed, and then they also dug the trenches to run the irrigation lines for where the aerobic septic system is going to spray out the treated sewer. I believe that's how the septic system installation went. And I know one question you guys may be wondering is, why did I do a septic system instead of just connecting to the public sewer system? Well, here in this specific community, and really whenever you're building a home, you're either going to have two options. Either you're going to have to do septic if there's not a public sewer pipe available, or if there is a public sewer pipe available, you're going to be forced to connect to that sewer pipe, which is obviously preferred because you just run out there, connect to the sewer pipe, and don't have to worry about it. Here in my instance, they don't have a public sewer pipe here in this community, therefore I had no choice. I had to do a private septic system. So I have my own little septic system that's going to treat all of my sewer from my house. So every time we flush the toilet, everything that goes down the drain in the sink or the showers, it's all going to run out this main drain line and into these, whoa, okay. Not going to go any further than that. It's going to run out here into these septic tanks where it's going to do its thing, where the solids are going to sink to the bottom, and that's going to become sludge, very nasty. And then all of the gases are going to rise to the top, and I believe they're going to escape out of here somehow. And then the water is going to, liquid part is going to be right in the middle of the tank. Essentially, it's going to move through this process of my septic system and then go out through the irrigation lines and get sprayed out into the rest of my property. I know it sounds nasty, but you know, it's science. There's obviously, it's going to be treated to some extent with chlorine and whatnot, so when it gets sprayed, it's not the nastiest thing in the world, although I probably won't be out there playing in it. And I would recommend my kids not go out there and play in it either. So that's how the septic system works to my knowledge. This is my first time ever having a septic system, so I probably have a lot to learn. Hopefully it doesn't cause me any problems, and hopefully it don't cost me any more money than what it already has. But now that the septic system is installed, all that we're lacking is a inspection from the county that I already explained, which is scheduled for next Wednesday. The contractor is going to come in here and pump all this water out so that they can visibly see it next Wednesday, which is in a couple days. Once we pass inspection, he will slick all this dirt back out, and then we'll move right on to the landscape, which I am very excited for because I'm going all out on the landscape, going to really try to make this place look nice with a bunch of plants and a bunch of rocks and some other cool stuff. So let's get the inspection passed and we'll move to landscape. All right, it is 7 o'clock Monday morning. Got about 2 weeks left on the build. And right now I just pulled into the dirt supplier. I'm about to run in this little office here and give them a credit card because today I'm purchasing some dirt material from this dirt supplier. I'm getting 2 truckloads of bank sand that my grading contractor is going to use to do the final grade. And then I'm also getting 6 truckloads of topsoil that the grading contractor is going to spread out. That way I'll have good soil for the sod I'm going to be laying down, so it'll be set up for success and hopefully grow fast and grow thick and look good in the future. Also, I'm meeting a truck driver here that I've never met before. I've never worked with a truck driver before. He drives a dump truck, but one day I saw him working on a job site. I took down his contact information. I said, hey, I'm going to give you a call one day because I know there's an instance where I'm going to need you. And then voila, I gave him a call for this job, and he gave me a price of $60 per truckload, and there is 8 truckloads. So I'm paying him a total of $480 to haul all this material back and forth from this dirt supplier to my job site, which I think is a pretty good value considering it's probably going to take him all day, and $480 for the job. Once you take out his maintenance and fuel cost and whatnot, he's probably going to be left with about $350 profit on the day, which for him, if he's happy with that, great. But to me, I feel like I'm getting a pretty good value because I did ask for the suppliers to deliver the material, and the pricing they were giving me was outrageous. They were going to charge me $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000 to drop all this material at the site, and I'm going to be paying only $480. So let me go ahead and go in here and put a credit card on file, and then we'll pick it back up at the job site. I'll show you what the material I'm getting looks like and what we're going to be using it for, and hopefully we can get this lot fully graded within the next 2 days. So we have 2 days left before we move on to the landscape part of the build, which is the very last step of the exterior of this entire project. I'm very excited for it, but I'm gonna be spending over 50 grand. I already know that on landscape, so stay tuned for that part of the video. But before we get to the landscape, we have to do the final grade, which the final grade is about a day to a day and a half that consists of 2 parts. The first part is actually grading the lot, making sure that water drainage is pristine, because on this project I want to make sure there is 0 standing water whatsoever. So when we get a big heavy rain, I want all the water that's on the property to run off to the ditches that surround my property. I do not want anything to be wet for an extended amount of time, and that's for several reasons. But one of the main reasons is that we have dogs and we also have kids, and when we let out our dogs, I don't want my dogs to go out in the yard, use the restroom, get in the mud, and then come back and track inside the house. Also for the kids, when I let the kids out the back door, I don't want them going out into the yard and not being able to play because it's wet and whatnot. I want everything drained perfectly. The second part of the final grade is something I'm deciding to do and invest a little bit extra money into the landscape, which is we're gonna be spreading, I think it was 6 loads of this topsoil. Most people would most probably neglect to do this extra step, but I've found in my experience, if you just throw sod down on top of select fill, which we use to build the pad, or maybe even this bank sand that we're using to do the final grade, it's not the most nutritious soil. So I decided to spend roughly another $4,000 on that 6 truckloads of topsoil and about another $1,500 in skid steer to spread it all out. So I have roughly an inch or ½ inch thick of that nutritious topsoil. That way when we lay down the sod, it has the best chance to thrive and grow lush and thick, because I want my property to look like a golf course, if at all possible, or at least give it the best chance to survive and look the best. All right, it is 2 days later, and I'm glad that we finished the final grade when we did. The grading contractor ended up bringing several more machines to get the final grade finished. There was 3 skid steers running at once, and then also 1 tractor with a blade on the back of it to spread the topsoil and also to cut the swell. So I'm glad we finished it when we did that day, because yesterday it was a straight downpour for like 3 hours. But the grading did its job, and for the most part, the lot is pretty dry, at least dry enough for the landscaping crew to show up and start installing all of the irrigation, which is what they're gonna do today and tomorrow. But this rain has also caused me some other delays, like this septic system over here that got installed earlier in the video. It's been open like this for about 2 weeks because the tanks kind of got silted in, also filled up with water, and the inspector refuses to do the inspection when it's this wet. I guess he doesn't want to get out of his truck and walk across a dirty ditch, a muddy ditch, so he just keeps delaying the process. I only got about a week and a half left on this project, so he better put on some rubber boots and come out here and inspect the thing so we can cover it up and proceed with the landscape. For the most part, the final grade went great. There's a couple areas like you're seeing right here where I'm not going to pay the final grade contractor yet, because as you'll see whenever I go over the pricing in the end of the video, I feel like I paid quite a bit for the final grade on the labor side. And off the top of my head, I think I paid like around 3 grand, give or take, for them to come out here, run those machines, and get everything fine-tuned on the grading side for the drainage. And therefore, since I'm paying, to me, what I feel like is somewhat of a premium, a higher cost to that contractor, I'm gonna hold them accountable and make sure everything is perfect, because this standing water is not just like an eyesore of standing water that would probably dry up in a day or two. It causes a lot more problems in my life that I don't want to deal with in the future. So I'm gonna hold them accountable. I'm about to make a phone call and tell them, hey, you need to come back out here, because there's a couple areas that need to be addressed like this. There might be 2 or 3 here on the 1 acre lot that I just need to make sure are perfect, because that's obviously what I hired him for. And if he didn't do the job exactly right, then I'm not gonna pay the bill until it's done. So that's one thing. Other than that, we're getting the irrigation knocked out. I have to do irrigation on this entire property. I think the HOA required for me to irrigate, I think the front yard, which my front yard takes up 70% of this 1 acre lot. And I want the grass in the back to look nice as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and irrigate the back. So pretty much irrigation is going to cover this entire 1 acre property that I have so that my property can always look nice. And the crew showed up this morning with their trencher. They're starting to dig these trenches so they can install all the irrigation lines. And then we'll be moving on to the hardscape stuff like the rocks, and then of course all the plants and the grass. So before we get into the actual landscaping part of the video, let me go to my office and we will go over the proposal I accepted for the landscape on this project, and also the overall design that I'm shooting for on the landscape, because I'm trying to go big on it and I want it to be very nice, as I've mentioned several times in this video. So to my office. All right, so let's start by taking a look at this 3D in color visualization video that I had created for my project. Actually, I had one done for the exterior and the interior. Paper 2D blueprints that were not in color, obviously. Some inspiration photos from the internet, just some ideas in writing, some photos of the raw land. I submitted them to this service and they took all that as well as combined it with their just architect design skills and created this in color visualization video, and they did a great job. So if you're looking for a service to do this for your project, then check out their contact information down in the description of this video, because I highly recommend them. They did a great job. This video has been extremely helpful on both the design phase of the build in the beginning as well as the actual execution throughout the project. And if you're new here, then you've probably never seen this video, but if you're not new here, then you've probably seen this video 2 to 3 times. This time we watch it through, let's take a look specifically at the landscape design in this video, because that's what this video is all about, this specific YouTube video. So here you can see my property, and my lot is 1 acre in size. My back property line runs essentially right here, runs all the way down into this group of trees way over here, then comes down, connects to the street, almost to the street, and then runs along this front ditch, and then back up. So it's like a football field, 100 yards long, 50 yards wide. And since it is naturally a long lot, it has a long, narrower but long building envelope, which is essentially the building envelope is the space in which I can build a house, because on the back there's a drainage easement, there's a utility easement, same for the sides, and then also from the front there's easements like 20 feet off the street, but for some reason, I don't know if it's deed restrictions, I think it's the HOA requires for houses to be built 60 feet from the street, so you cannot be within 60 feet. So with all those different setbacks, it creates a certain building envelope, and my building envelope was fairly long and rectangular, which caused me to build a long rectangular house to fit within what I had available to me. And that kind of created us to have a large side and front yard here, very large side and front yard, very large front and side yard on this side of the house, but you can kind of see really don't have that big of a backyard. A little bit unfortunate, a little bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. You can see the property line's like right here, and then here's our backyard area behind the pool. So just wanted to start by saying that we'll have a pretty big front and side yard, but not very big backyard. So here's the landscape design. The number one thing that kind of makes the landscape design stand out is actually something the service came up with that created this video, and that is this continuous shrub line that goes all the way around the house, that is accompanied by a rock bed that goes all the way around the house, goes all the way around the pool, comes all the way back around and down this side of the driveway. So 360 degrees around the house and pool, connects back to the street. And I think it looks really cool. So we're gonna try to do that. You also see here in the front area is another place we are going to try to add some different landscape plant elements coming up to the front. You can see here is a big agave. I don't know that I'm going to do this raised plant bed, although I wish I could. I think it's just going to be too expensive, like an extra $2 or $3 grand to get that big of a landscape box. So we're going to put a grand agave in the ground, some different plants right here, some grass plants similar to these you're seeing. But this shrub line is going to continue all the way around the house. We're not going to put these agaves here. We also did, concrete pavers here, similar to this, but just different color, different material leading into the front door. You'll see this is a tall tree. Well, this is a tall white wall. I have a tall window there. And I just felt it was appropriate to cover this tall white wall with some type of tall greenery. So we decided to put a tall tree here, and then also on this wall, it's the same thing. You'll see here in just a second. It's just a massive white wall. I think it would look a little odd if we didn't put something there, so we're gonna put a couple of tall trees there as well. Here in the video, he only has 2, but we're gonna add another one. We're gonna put 3 on this wall. You can see how big and tall that wall is. So this shrub line and rock bed goes all the way around the house. You can see, fairly unique. I don't think I've really seen it anywhere else. And I like to do cool stuff, be a little different than everyone else. So, cool shrub line. One thing I know is that my shrubs are not gonna look like this. Like, I'm not gonna gain instant satisfaction once they set them in the ground, because this is probably 950 feet from start of the driveway all the way around the house, all the way back down to the other side of the driveway. It's probably 900 linear feet of rocks and plants, and that's a lot of plants. So I'm not gonna have this instant satisfaction of a perfect shrub. Not even that this is the style I'm going for, but it's not just gonna be this perfect shrub hedge all the way around the house immediately. We're gonna go with some smaller, younger plants, and then we're just gonna have to be a little bit patient to let them grow into the perfect hedge that we're going to be going for. I'm gonna be living here a couple years anyway, so I think it's achievable. Within maybe 2 years, the plants will start being shaped into a hedge. But I have to do that because it is 900 linear feet of plants, which if you're planting them every 3 feet, like you're seeing here in this video, that is probably 900 feet divided by 3 feet is like 300 plants that I'm gonna be planting here. And to upgrade from small ones to like mediums is like double the price. So you can imagine that would be very expensive. We'll go over that here in the proposal in here in just a second. So landscape, you can see in this video, just gonna wrap around the pool. And that is, for the most part, that is the landscape design. Here's a good aerial view showing it going all the way around the house. All right, so now let's take a look at the proposal that I have accepted from the landscape contractor. And let's start with line item number 1, landscape, plants, and trees. Let's see, plant material and installation, 4 65-gallon slender silhouette sweet gums. That's the tall trees that are gonna go on those tall white walls, 4 of those. 14 30-gallon Japanese yews, 5 to 6 feet tall. A couple places we're putting those. 265 3-gallon dwarf Japanese yews. This is for the hedge all the way around the house. 265 of those, and I'm doing 3 gallons. And to go from 3 gallons to I guess maybe 6 gallons or 7 gallons, the ones that are 1 up in size, it would probably be like an extra $9 grand. So 22 1-gallon dwarf hamlins, 22 1-gallon laropes, 1 45-gallon agave plant. That plant itself is like $650, and then approximately 25 cubic yards of planting mix and hardwood mulch for a total of $21,000 in plants. And again, if I were to try to upgrade from 3-gallon dwarf Japanese yews to 6 or 7 gallons, this could be like $30,000 line item. So just gonna have to be patient and go with the smaller ones. Next is hardscape, approximately 1,960 square feet of limestone gravel at 4-inch max depth with filter fabric, inside and outside bed edge of slab, $8,000 in rocks to go all the way around the house. Hardscape says 1,140 linear feet of 4-inch steel edging, $5,130. This is for the steel edging that's going to separate the hedge plant line from the actual rocks themselves. 1,140 linear feet. I was thinking like 900, so I was pretty close, but 1,100 is a lot. $5,000 in steel edging. Yikes, that's expensive. Next is 23,915 square feet of St. Augustine sod, $16,000. Irrigation system. This is for 17 1-inch zones, $6,800 to irrigate this entire 1-acre lot. I'm going to be irrigating the front, the back, both sides, the entire everything that's going to have grass is going to be getting water. Then we have install limestone looter border for the front yard tree well. There's a big oak tree right by the driveway. I'm going to be putting this border around. $850 for that. 6 30-gallon Japanese yews. 11, this is just some extra plants. I had him revise the proposal and add on an extra $2,340 and some extra plants. Then we have the area drainage, $630. This is for 90 linear feet of 4-inch PVC gutter laterals and 3 pop-up emitters. So that's for drainage pipe. Essentially throughout the process, the gutter contractor ran the downspouts to where they needed to go. The pool contractor, he put some drainage pipes, like for instance, the pool drainage pipe. It has an overflow drain. So whenever it rains and the pool fills up, it flows out of an overflow drain that he just extended the pipe 10 feet out into the yard and then stopped. Anyways, throughout the process, there might be a couple drains here and there that just get moved away from the house and then terminated. And then the landscape contractor comes in and he actually is the one that connects to those pipes, runs them to their final destination, puts on the pop-up emitters. So this line item is to account for $630 extra of drainage work for a total of $61,075 I'm going to be paying for landscape on this project. I think that's very expensive, obviously. There's no doubt about that, at least for the Houston, Texas market. And I think it's just gonna make this property luxurious and special, because I personally think that in order to make a property really stand out and be luxurious, it has to have, one element it has to have is a bunch of plants and landscape. And this is definitely going to accomplish that. I think obviously I probably could save 15, 20 grand if I were to stop the front landscape, like do the front landscaping here, but stop it here and not continue it all the way around the house and just stop this side here. You know, limit everything to the front of the property. Of course, that could cut some money in half. Cut the bill maybe in half, or probably 15, 20 grand off the bill. But, you know, I don't want to cheap out. This is something I really want to invest in to make my property feel luxurious. So that is the design I'm going for. So now let's go back to the build and see if I can replicate this exact design from the video onto my current blank canvas that is just a dirt-filled lot. So back to the build. All right, you guys, it has actually been about 4 weeks since I finished the home build itself. And honestly, it's been about 3 weeks since me and my family got moved in to our dream home. And by the way, the landscape came out fantastic. Unfortunately, after we finished the landscape, I wasn't able to really get any footage because I was really focused on finishing the build itself and getting moved in here, because we listed our previous primary residence for rent for like $3 grand. It's like a 3-bed, 2-bath house, and we got it leased out, and they requested a earlier move-in date than we were really able to do, but we agreed to it. Therefore, I was fighting that deadline of getting the house finished and getting moved in here so that the new tenants could move in to our third rental property, which was our last primary residence. So I didn't get any footage of, didn't get much footage of the actual landscape install itself, but I didn't get any footage of the landscape once it was fully installed immediately thereafter it was finished, because I was focused on that. So now let's check out the landscape. First, you can see here, can't miss it, I have a huge pile of debris in the ditch, which is a result of Hurricane Beryl. Unfortunately, took out 2 of my trees here on this property. One was like a 120 foot tall, 100 foot tall oak tree, which was massive. Wind blew that over, and also took out about an 80-foot tall pine tree, costing me $1,800 in tree service and also about $800 in fence repair because the pine tree fell directly on 2 of my wrought iron panels. So that's a little unfortunate. But now let's check out the landscape. This side, not the prettiest side because this group of trees doesn't really provide that much sunlight. Therefore, we didn't plant sod under there because we knew sod would just die. It'd be a waste of money. So instead I just threw down some seed, which is starting to grow in. My plan with this area is just to let natural vegetation overtake and grow in, and then of course mow it and weed eat it, and it'll look fine. It's just not going to be luscious grass like that on the left. So there's that. But now let's take a look at the good side of the landscape, which, let me start by saying this. 1 acre lot, put all this sod, irrigated the entire thing. Over the past month, I've been freaking watering the crap out of my yard. I mean, keeping it pretty wet because of course I want the grass to not die and be a waste of money. I want it to grow in thick. So with that said, the past month I've been watering this thing. Essentially, you turn on my sprinkler system, and from the time it starts to the time it goes through each zone and stops, each cycle, is like 5 hours. You turn it on, 5 hours, goes all the way through and then stops 5 hours later, right? So I was watering it twice a day. So if it starts the first cycle at 8 a.m. and waters for 5 hours, essentially it stops at like, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock p.m. And then it turned right back on at 3 p.m. and would go until like 8 p.m. So that's how much I was watering it. I just got my first water bill back. $1,600. 16,000 gallons was to fill up the pool. The total bill said 120,000 gallons. So maybe 20,000 gallons was for the pool and 100,000 gallons was for both house usage and also watering the yard. So safe to say I will not be watering the yard as much this coming month or any more in the future unless we're in a drought. So hopefully I can get that water bill lowered. But it has paid off because our landscape has really taken root. Plants look great, look like they're thriving. Here's the front entry leading to the front door. We have the shrub hedge on the left, which honestly the plants look really good. They're fairly small, but again, we knew that we were gonna have to be a little bit patient, let these things grow up over the next year or so, and then start to trim them and shape them into a hedge. But that's the hedge line there, looks good. And then on the right, we have the agave, big agave plant, statement plant there with some little grass. These are called dwarf Hamlin plants, surrounding it in a square shape. And then here we have a little line of the lorope. It's like wild grass there, leading into the front door. Boom. And then on this side, we have the tall sweet gum silhouette trees to take up. You see the tall window on the right. I think that's a good fitting area for that tree there on that wall. You can probably tell in the camera the bottom half of that tree does not look as good as the top half. And that's because immediately after we moved in, I noticed there were all these freaking caterpillars climbing on that tree. And unfortunately, they ate the bottom half of all the leaves on that tree. So I ended up spraying it with some spray from Home Depot, and they were gone the next day. So I took care of that, but the leaves haven't grown back yet. Here you can see this massive wall, and you can see 3 slender silhouette trees. Hedge line continues all the way around. I think it will take roughly a year to get it before it really looks like a hedge. You can see some taller Japanese yews there. And I had to put those because here's the septic system. A design failure on my end, and maybe the architect's end, is that we designed to put the septic system here in the front of the house, and you can see it has 3 ugly green tops, which are ugly from the street. Ideally, I would like these in like the back corner of my property where I never lay my eyes on them, but here they are. And with that said, they had to run electrical connections and whatnot right here to be connected on the house. So there's a freaking, the clean out is there, that green box is there for the septic system, and then on that wall is another electrical panel and some other access panels. And since it's on the front wall of my house, I had to pay for these 3 Japanese yews that are about 6 feet tall to cover that mess up, so it's not visible from the street. And these are expensive. These are like, I want to say like $400 each for these tall Japanese yews that are like 5 or 6 foot tall. Then coming around the side of my house all the way to the back corner is another hedge of Japanese yews, because right here is a street, and as people drive by, I wanted a little bit of privacy, so as they drive by here on the street, they could, if I did not have that tall hedge there, see right into my backyard, and I'd rather have a little bit of privacy. So I put like 1, 2, 3, like say 6 or 7 of these tall Japanese yews to create a privacy hedge. And I know these Japanese yews don't look perfectly groomed right now because they're brand new, but once they take roots and start to grow, you can really shape them up to become, you know, perfectly rectangular or whatever kind of shape I prefer for them to be in the future. All right, here we go into my backyard. Coming through the gate, you can see my wrought iron fence. There's the 2 panels that got damaged by the tree that fell on it. Right now I just have them tied up with some straps. Obviously damaged there. There's a massive stump over there that I don't know what I'm gonna do with. That's the tall oak tree stump. Let me know down in the comment section, what should I do? Because the tree service was using a small tractor to carry everything to the front of the property, but the trunk was too heavy. I could grind it, but that would cost me like $800 or $600 to grind that large of a stump. Or the other option I think is to burn it, but the stump is covered in dirt. So I don't know what I'm gonna do for that yet. But here's the landscape in the back of the property, and pretty simple back here. It just kind of goes all the way around the pool, exactly like the rendering design showed it was going to. And then it connects over there at that fence. All right, now for a quick cost breakdown of everything that went into this part of the build, starting with the driveway. And the first cost I have listed for the driveway is labor cost. And labor just refers to the crew I hired, but the crew actually provided some material. They provided the rebar as well as the form board material and the joint board material, which is 1x4s and then of course rebar. And they charged me $3.50 a foot. And this driveway, as well as the steps, equated to roughly 2,625 square feet. So that brings the grand total for the labor, the form boards material, and also the rebar to $9,187. Again, $3.50 a foot. Next cost was the actual concrete mix material. I paid $6,802, and I think that was like 45 yards of concrete, 4.5 trucks. The next cost was the trailer pump, or the trash pump, which was the pump that pumped all the concrete into the driveway with 100 foot of hose. That was $850. That makes the total cost on the driveway $16,840. $16,840 divided by 2,625 square feet. I paid $6.41 a square foot for this concrete flat work, or the driveway. And I really didn't save that much money by piecemealing this part of the build, or hiring a labor contractor and then having to get the trash pump and having to order the concrete. I kind of figured I would save more money, but I didn't really check the numbers and run the numbers with the labor. I know I overpaid on the labor, so I didn't really run the numbers on the labor before I got started on this part of the build. I was just kind of rolling. They gave me the price. I was like, go for it. And now looking back, I really didn't save any money because I think I overpaid on labor. And I say that because on my last driveway I did, on a previous rental property build, I paid $7 a foot for a turnkey contractor to provide all the material. He said $7 a foot, gave me the total price. I said, do it. He did all the material, all the labor, and $7 a foot. If I would have hired him on this build, he probably would have gave me a better rate than $7 a foot, considering how big the driveway is, how big the job is. And just say he would have hired me, just say I would have hired him and he would have charged me $7 a foot. I would have paid him $7 times 26.25. I would have paid him $18,375, and I ended up paying myself for this driveway $16,840. So I would have saved like $1,000 doing it this way in comparison to hiring him. Was it worth it? Yeah, I guess it was in the end. At least I know I learned not to pay $3.50 a foot in the future. Instead, just say, hey, that's a little too much. You're gonna have to give me a better rate than that. So not really any savings from piecemeal, only $1,000. Moving on, septic cost, $8,656 for the septic system install, and also to run all the sprinkler lines. One was just going off in the background. I don't know if you were able to see that, but the sprinkler heads for the septic system, the sprinkler lines, and of course the septic system itself, $8,656. That also comes with like a 2-year initial contract, maintenance contract for them to come out and maintenance the system every quarter for the next 2 years, and that contract had to be signed and turned into the county. So $8,656 covers the original install and also 2 years of maintenance on the septic system. Now moving on to the grading. The rough grade was $1,600, and this was where the grading contractor brought out his skid steer, and essentially he just did a rough grade on the entire property before we even got into the final grade, okay? Then we moved on to the final grade. I said a rough grade was $1,600, and he said this was required to be able to determine how much the final grade was actually going to cost and how much dirt we needed for the final grade. So now moving on to the final grade material was $4,200. $2,000 was for the bank sand for just grading, and then $2,200 was for the topsoil material that we just overlaid over the top, about 1/2 inch everywhere, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch everywhere, just to give the soil a little bit of nutrition so that when we laid the sod, it would have good nutritious soil. And then the final grade labor to spread all that bank sand and topsoil, $3,200. So that makes the total grading cost on this project $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. Damn, I really paid $9,000 on grading. It's crazy. All right, now for the landscape costs. Obviously, you guys saw us go. Obviously, you guys know how much I paid for the landscape, considering we just went over the entire proposal and the invoice, $61,075. The only other cost that I haven't mentioned yet, and that I didn't really plan on mentioning on any other video, is the cost for the fence, which is that 4-foot tall wrought iron fence, $5,350. The guy I hired was very, very, very affordable. Just a guy in a truck with some fence equipment, $5,350, and relatively affordable material. I know you can get much better wrought iron material than what I got, but the stuff I got will last long enough and looks good to me. So $5,350 for the fence. So that's gonna bring a wrap to the driveway, septic system, and landscape video. I believe all that is ready to do now is a home tour, a final cost breakdown of every single cost I paid to get this project complete, and then lastly, the full movie showing everything I did from start to finish on how I built this project. With that said, I'm excited for the future. I'm right now in the planning stages, very preliminary planning stages, like in my imagination, trying to plan and run the numbers on how I can build and afford to build a fourplex, my first multifamily property. I know I'm hoping to be able to spend around $1 million on it, of course involving a bank and getting a construction loan. Having a little bit of difficulty running the numbers right now, considering interest rates are at like freaking, on that kind of loan would be at like 8%, and it would probably require a little bit more of a down payment. But again, just preliminary stages of that project, and you guys know me. I've done everything I've said I'm gonna do up to this point. Built my first 2 properties, kept those as rentals, both cash flowing roughly $500 or $600 each per month, and then built this $1 million dream home. So you guys hit the subscribe button if you're not yet subscribed. I appreciate you watching. If you are still watching this far into the video, catch you on the next one. Deuces.